Hey there, Mark.
Hey, Dan.
How's
My
it going?
video tip. Good. My first video tip of the week is to press the unmute button when you start talking. That's it. That's the kind of quality content that I deliver. How are you, Mr. Dan Ray?
Excellent, Mark. How are you? It's been a while.
Yeah, I've missed you. I've missed the audience. We've been away a little bit, so it is fantastic to be back on the best damn show on video. And why don't folks that are joining, feel free to type into your respective chat windows. Tell us where you're from. We always love to see where folks are joining from, as we have quite the international audience. It's always fun to see where folks are joining from. Dan, as folks are typing in and sharing that, what have you been up to the last several weeks since we were last on air together? Anything cool and interesting in your life when it comes to using video?
Yes, so I am putting together a video for Microsoft Teams that will premiere on one of Microsoft's many channels in September. So I have till the end of the month to put the finishing touches on my Microsoft Teams tip, and that will be broadcast from a I guess a theater near you, right? In September. How about you?
Well, I've been doing some interesting things with clients, from helping them increase their sales as well as their engagement using video content. I've recently worked with a few sales teams in the technology industry, and I've been getting lots of questions on how to effectively or be more effective and grow sales from a virtual perspective. And so we're certainly talking a lot about being highly effective on video, as well as part of a professional speaking group that I'm a part of. We have now started doing a blended. We're starting to meet in person, as well as having remote participants join via video conference. And that has been, I've certainly done it before, but it's been interesting to get back into speaking to a room full of people at the same time that you're speaking to a virtual audience.
Yes, that's always a challenge, right? Because then you're trying to balance the engagement and the energy in the room while not ignoring your online audience.
Yep, for sure. And I'm trying to mess with my slides here at the same time. So, so that's actually, it's a perfect segue. It looks like before we move on and start sharing our video tips that we've been storing up, waiting to share, it looks like Becky is joining us from Northern California. So thank you, Becky. She's joining us on LinkedIn. We appreciate you tuning in. And a few other folks, we know that you're out there. Feel free, don't be shy. Feel free to type in the chat window. But Dan, that is actually a perfect segue to what I wanted to share for my video tip of the week is actually, if I can switch back to, I already kind of let it. So my video tip of the week is really talking about that hybrid, that blended experience. I am pretty confident, and I would love to get your opinion on this as well. But I do believe that for those of us that speak, whether we're salespeople, entrepreneurs, we're leaders in organizations, whatever your profession may be, I think if you are routinely speaking to others, whether it's customers, your team, peers, coworkers, clients, I believe that from here on out, we need to prepare ourselves and become comfortable in speaking to a blended audience of both in person and virtual at the same time. And the term hybrid, but hybrid applies to so many things nowadays. So I'm just calling that a blended experience, a blended audience of both in person and online. And I'm discovering even myself as I was sharing, I'm starting to speak in person to groups in person, and it's been really interesting, even though I've been doing this for many years and extremely comfortable most of the time speaking to in front of audiences and actually thrive on it. But after 18 months of strictly speaking to remote audiences, I'm having to having to kind of bring back that muscle memory of how you engage in audience and interact with them and bring out their energy at the same time that you're speaking to people on camera who may be thousands of miles away and joining from their homes. But I think that we're way too far into organizations being extremely comfortable in this virtual environment that even after it's safe, completely safe for us to get back together again, I believe that all of us will routinely still be speaking to remote participants. And we may be doing that from a conference room where we have live participants. We may be doing it strictly from our homes in a pure virtual, or we may be speaking to just a few folks and have hundreds of people joining from all across the world. So that is my tip of the week, is for you to really push yourself to continue to get very comfortable in this virtual and this video environment, because it's going to help you be confident to be able to jump back into that, being able to engage people in person at the same time that you're also speaking to your video audience and pulling them in and making them feel just as important and just as engaged as the folks there in the room. I welcome your thoughts and your experience, what you've been discovering in regards to some of the clients that you're working with. Have they started talking about that reality, or do you have a different perception based on what you're hearing, Dan?
No, it's exactly that. I've looked at submitting sessions for blended conferences, and those blended conferences are exactly what you spoke of. They would be in person if you choose to, feel comfortable, confident with the location and the procedures the conference creators are putting together. And then they will also welcome blended online attendees to those experiences. So I think that's going to not only be here to stay, but become much more prevalent in the future. And it goes to show what we've always known was there, but we've put it into practice in the most recent months.
Yeah, and Robert on LinkedIn has weighed in and said, there's been the opportunity. In fact, his comment is people have been using live streaming since 2015 when Periscope first came onto the scene. And
Yes.
how you act on screen should be the same as if you were on stage in front of them. And it's a great point, Robert. Without question, you want your same personality. You want people to be able to see your style and see that you're just as uncomfortable virtually as you are in person. But beyond that, it is a sort of new paradigm for many people to have to be dealing with both at the same time. Generally, in many professions, like in sales and leadership, most of the time you're speaking to a group of people in the room, pre-COVID, of course. And then once COVID hit, it just became completely virtual. But now we're going back to this sort of mixed environment, this blended environment. And it is a whole new set of muscles, if you will, to be able to engage your audience in person, making sure you're making eye contact with various members of the audience, making sure that you're pulling people out and asking them questions and keeping them engaged, but at the same time also giving that same level of attention to your virtual audience and not making either one of them feel like they don't matter or feeling like they're getting a second class experience because they're not either online or they're not in the room with you. So I do agree that that it is the same. A lot of it is, there is overlap there, but at the same time, it takes a unique mindset or it takes practice in getting comfortable with that environment in order to be able to do that smoothly and confidently.
Totally agree.
Right?
It's practice and it's opportunities, right? When we get into those blended environments, that's where you get to exercise those muscles, like you said, keeping people engaged in person, looking around a room versus looking at a webcam and trying to make that eye contact with a little dot on your system.
Yeah, and I'll share a real quick story from a experience I had over the weekend in this blended environment. The group that I'm a part of that did this hybrid meeting for the first time. All of us that are a part of this group that were in person are actually, it was a series of speakers, professional speakers. We've been doing this for quite some time. And it wasn't until almost the end of the meeting, after 5 or 6 of us had gotten up and spoken at the same time that the virtual audience, several of them had spoken during this meeting. And it wasn't until the very end that I realized that all of us professional speakers that are used to speaking in the room, that entire meeting, we had just stood in front of the camera, staring at the camera, talking to our audience. And thus, we were actually giving a much better experience to our online audience than we were the folks in the room. And it hit me. I was like, we're not moving. We're not walking over to one table or, like gesturing to other folks in the room. And it just really hit home what a different set of practices it was and how important it is for us to continue to get comfortable in this blended environment, because I do strongly believe that this is going to be the way that we're gonna continue to see business. The business paradigm from here on out will be a mixed environment.
Totally agree.
Right? Well, that is my tip of the week: is keep doing video because it's gonna it's that's gonna pay off in spades when we all get to go back to being in person together. Those video skills will still be will a lot of people I think are just waiting, ignoring, praying that we get back in person together, and it goes back to the way it was, and I don't think it ever will. So, Dan, why don't you go ahead and share your video tip of the week?
Yeah, so Mark, I spoke to you about one that I was thinking of, but another occurred to me that came up today, and that was the idea of using the whiteboard feature in Microsoft's operating system. And I can actually use the whiteboard and overlay that with my video with OBS. You've spoken a lot about OBS in the past. OBJ,
Oh,
OBS. I'm almost putting up the wrong acronym, right? And I had a set of students today that we were watching an online video with somebody presenting technical concepts and just drawing those concepts of different machines and explaining how the machines were configured and communicating together. And they asked, how did that person do the video, what looked like maybe a see-through or a clear glass board that they were writing on with markers? And I said, that's one way you can do it. But another way is with OBS, I can take my computer and actually change the input sources so that it's not just my video that I'm leveraging, but it's multiple sources. So in the OBS application, I can choose my video camera, which you'll see here is where I am sharing my video, but I'm also sharing a screen. And the screen I am sharing is my whiteboard app. Now, the reason my whiteboard is showing up with white is because I've inverted the whiteboard application so that it's black with white ink. And so that's how I have the application set up on my computer. Let's get a little tricky and see if we can actually share OBS and show what this looks like in the OBS application. So here we have OBS. You can see that I have a window captured, and the window that I'm capturing is from my Microsoft Whiteboard application. And you can see right there that I've kind of drawn on my whiteboard the borders of what you can see. You can't see the lines at the top or the bottom. However, to the far right, I'm almost off screen, and to the far left, those are the borders that I can draw within and that are visible on the screen. So I can set that up, and then on my video capture device, I can set up what video camera I'm using on my system. I actually have OBS and my Microsoft LifeCam hooked up right now on my Surface Studio. And so I can set up those different video interfaces. And then I can also set filters or opacity on my settings here. And let's see, that's under transform, if memory serves. No, Mark, you might be able to help me out. You're always my
It
wizard.
should be under filters if you right click on the source. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then I added in here, right? Chroma key.
Yes.
And then that's where I make it see-through with the opacity setting. Thank you. See, that's why you're here, is to help me out when I get in my head. A technical.
This is fantastic, Dan. I have experimented with this as well, and the beauty of this is that, of course, on video, the more we see you, the more we get to look in those beautiful eyes of yours, the more that we stay engaged. And by being able to do that overlay, you're still able to go into a whiteboarding session and be so visual, but we still get to see you and see your facial expressions, and we're much more likely to be engaged versus if you were to stay in a whiteboard for, say, 20 minutes or something like that when we never see you. We might start tuning out. So that was very cool.
Yeah. And just figuring out, like you said, with blended use, maybe not doing the same thing all the time. So take an opportunity to do it this way a little bit, take an opportunity to do different types of engagement, maybe with PowerPoint. And there's ways now in Teams to actually put yourself over your PowerPoint or your screens that you're sharing. Doing that and switching it up a little bit helps with engagement as well. Obviously, multiple speakers are another tip I could share. And that's what we agreed to do with this show, was instead of one of us going on and sharing video tips, it's a lot more fun when a couple of us get together and have an opportunity to collaborate.
That's fantastic. OBS is such a powerful tool, and even I, as we continue to use it more and more, there's just so much more other creators are doing with OBS, but it integrates extremely well with Microsoft Teams and Zoom and other any platform that you might be doing video conferencing from. And it's actually it takes a little bit, not there's lots of information out there. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you start to understand it, there's just so much that you can do to enhance just you talking to slides, full screen PowerPoint or something like that. So thank you for sharing that tip.
Yeah.
I actually, I've experimented with the whiteboard now. You've inspired me to play with it some more.
It was really fun today to just kind of on the fly. The question came up as we watched this video, and I was like, well, I've got OBS installed, and we can take an aside from our very technical, and this allowed us to have another technical discussion, because instead of just the whiteboard, it was me inside of the whiteboard, if you will.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
With that, I think the next section that we like to do on the Best Damn Show on Video is really highlight video creators out there that have caught our attention and are doing in our experience, are really using it effectively to not only grow their business, but certainly helping other people grow their business as well. And my creator of the week is actually, let me put myself back over here so people can see. Let me switch this around, just playing around here. There we go. So the gentleman's name, this is from his YouTube channel. Gentleman's name is Scott Fisher, I believe is how he pronounces it. And what really appeals to me about Scott, speaking of OBS, he does quite a bit of content on helping you more effectively use OBS. He specifically talks, his audience mostly that he speaks to is live streamers. So perhaps they're video gamers or people that are using live stream on a regular basis. But any one of us. Again, I'm a speaker that I work with sales teams and leaders, and quite a bit of the content that Scott shares, anyone that speaks to others and is using video, but wants to use that video to grow an audience, would be able to use some of the content that Scott is sharing. But not only that, what I find really interesting, what stands out to me, excuse me, let me mute that so we can watch him for a second. But what I really enjoy is that he's also a very engaging creator. So even if you have no interest in using OBS, or you're not quite ready, but you want to start building out your YouTube channel, or you want to use video on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram stories, whatever it may be, then Scott actually does a fantastic job of just watch some of his videos and see the different ways that he tries to engage his audience. So just in the 1 minute we've been watching alone, you'll see that he does a lot with images that he adds into, in addition to him speaking. He talks to right now he's speaking to a comment that he was shared, and so he's responding back directly to that. He does a lot. He's not afraid to be a little silly, or be a little self-deprecating if he does something or says something. He's not live streaming himself in this particular video, but he does do that. He'll go live and he'll add in these elements using OBS. He'll be doing some of the same tricks. So I just find his content, it's a nice role model, even if you have no intention of using OBS whatsoever. The more that you can try to draw people's attention to different areas of the screen if you're demonstrating something, or try to break up just you speaking to camera for long periods of time, the more that you can find different ways of interacting or breaking up the visual image, the more likely you are to hold your audience's attention. Big, bright, bold words at the beginning of his video. That way, if people are scrolling by in their social media feed and they're only going to pause for 5 seconds or 10 seconds to see if this video is interesting to them, they can immediately, even if they don't have the sound on, they can immediately see what the video is about, and that may catch their attention and stop and want to dig in and watch the full video. So Scott Fitcher, his YouTube channel continues to grow. Last name spelled Fichther. Very active on YouTube. I looked him up on LinkedIn. He does have a LinkedIn profile, but clearly he is not active on LinkedIn, because I don't see much contribution there at all. He may be active on other platforms, but I'm specifically familiar with him on the YouTubes, if you will. And so I encourage you to look him up. And if you're looking to be more engaging, have more fun, grab your audience's attention, maybe grow your own channel, he'd be somebody that you, without question, you'd be able to pull some tips from and utilize in your video content. And that's why Scott Fitcher is my Creator of the Week.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mr. Ray.
Yeah, so my creator of the week comes from the world of Teams. I presented about a week ago about Microsoft Teams people you should know. When I was growing up, Channel 2 in Chicago had a segment hosted by Walter Jacobson, and it was a person you should know. And as I thought about how I wanted to present about Microsoft Teams and things I've learned, one thing that occurred to me is I've learned so much from others in the community. And so the person that I will highlight from my findings, I have over 60 people that just from memory I was able to bring up as suggestions. The one I'll highlight here is Ricardo Wilkins. And Ricardo is not only active on LinkedIn, so I can go find his LinkedIn page here. And within my PowerPoint, it links to the different people's PowerPoints or to their LinkedIn from the PowerPoint. But he also hosts a Cute for Teams Ask Me Anything every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so 10 a.m. Central here, and it would be 8 a.m. if you're on the West Coast. So Cute for Teams and Ricardo Wilkins as a creator is somebody that has caught my attention and is somebody that I follow, and I would suggest you get to know from a Microsoft Teams people you should know perspective.
Cute for Teams. Now there's a name. I like it.
It's sticky, right?
Yes. And well, thank you, Dan. Thank you for sharing that. And
No problem.
I guess I'm trying to think of the next section, or where we like to go. So we want to tell our audience or remind folks out there that we are always looking for your favorite creators. If you are somebody that is using video, or you know somebody that is using video quite effectively, and you want them highlighted on the show, then please do send Dan or I a message. Use the hashtag #BestDamnShow or hit us up on LinkedIn. Both Dan and myself are very active on LinkedIn. Send us a comment on YouTube or the Twitterverse or wherever you happen to be. Just hit us up and share the profile or a link to the channel of your favorite creator and tell us why you like them or why they stand out for you. We would love to highlight them on the show, and we love talking to people, content creators as well. So we may very well look to have them as a guest on the show as well and ask them about their video journey, how they came to use video, what it's done for their business, how it's helped them grow, and what recommendations they would have for others to help them grow or help you grow. Oh, well, let's see. Dan, any parting words of wisdom before we wrap up our first show in a little while, but it's been a lot of fun. Any parting words of wisdom?
Our first August show, right? At the end of August.
Yes.
I just say thank you to all the folks that are watching live and then that will have an opportunity to see this as a rebroadcast, either through finding it through Mark's LinkedIn, my Twitter, our YouTube, different avenues. We're also, I believe, on Twitch, which I still haven't figured out the whole Twitch platform, but I think figured out how to put this over there at least.
We have no idea what's going on over there, but we're going on over there. So, yeah, I love it. I mean, it just speaks to that's one way to figure it out is just start doing it. So if you have any hesitancy about if you're not yet using video for your business, or you're still waiting to build confidence, or maybe you created a few videos and either shared them and stopped, or you didn't never ended up sharing them. Number one piece of advice from me, at least, is just start doing it and then figure out later on, like get familiar with it, and that's the only way you're really going to learn and start to grow your audience.
I totally agree. It's all about practice, and the practice makes you better as you get those lessons under your belt and more comfortable with what you're doing.
Fantastic. Well, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. We appreciate you being here as well. We look forward to hearing your suggestions on video content creators out there that are catching your attention, and we want to highlight them on an upcoming episode. And I guess we'll see you. Are we every other week? That's our cadence.
I believe that's our cadence and plan going forward.
Yes. So that would work well, because here in the States, next Thursday would be going into Labor Day weekend. So we won't be here next Thursday, but the following Thursday, we will charge into the month of September with our next show.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And until then, happy videoing.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, thanks, Dan.